Hey everybody, welcome back to the Matt Report Season 2. We're continuing our discussion with this season's co-host, Devin Walker, and today we're going to get into sort of where we're at, where we've been in our businesses, what sort of accomplishments have we had, what have we failed on, and how we're going to kind of rectify that. It's going to be a pretty quick conversation because, again, I am bringing a guest on, a good friend of mine, Jonathan Atkinson of Creative, and we're going to talk about the WordPress theme industry, right? So if you're selling themes or you're interested in selling themes, this is going to be a great discussion today. So I can't wait to dive into it. Of course, it's mattreport.com/subscribe. Join that mailing list. It's the #1 way to stay connected. And I'm going to be sending out some new stuff through the newsletter fairly soon. I'm sure you're excited to hear that. And so be on the lookout. And as always, we want to hit 100 reviews in iTunes. We're still only hovering around the 70 mark in the US. Anyway, we all know that Justin Jackson from Product People left a 5-star review in the Canadian store. So I think we've got about 5 for 5 stars in the Canadian store. But in the US, we want to hit 100. Really helps us get found, gets us noticed, and continue to be the #1 rated WordPress podcast. That'd be awesome if we could do that. So I'm going to dive in to... Oh, Devin, are you ready to do this, man?
Let's do it.
All right, brother. Just want to make sure. That was a test to see if Devin was still on mute or not.
I was, but I quickly unmuted.
You're becoming a podcasting pro. I don't need to send you any more YouTube links.
One episode at a time.
So what have I accomplished? Well, for those of you who are on the list, I finally launched the Julep beta. That has gone swimmingly, and by swimmingly I mean not much. We've had about 50 downloads of the beta product, which actually isn't a bad number. I think if I were to whip up my MailChimp list, I think I had 110 people sign up for the pre-launch or even the pre-launch, the beta launch. And so that's about almost a 50% conversion. So that's a great accomplishment. What I've sort of failed on, I kind of skip ahead here, but sort of what I've failed on doing on that is a follow-up campaign. And for anybody who's out there who's has done a beta launch before, it's very important that we start communicating with those folks as soon as we can. I think actually, Devin, you talked about this with the Maps plugin, right? You sort of launched it, but then you didn't really do a solid follow-up like the Give WP beta.
Yep.
And that's sort of the trap that I've fallen in. Again, it's what this show is all about. It's balancing agency life and product life, and it's just getting around to doing it. I did set up a campaign for those people connecting and downloading the Julep beta. I used Easy Digital Downloads. I connected it to my Drip account, which I've been writing about on the blog, and I did have one follow-up email that went out, I think the next day. Just to introduce the product, where we're going with it. But I need to get back into that campaign so I can follow up with feedback, because I know there are some specific issues happening, especially on WP Engine hosted accounts. So I have to kind of drill down on that. Other accomplishments, I've been blogging a lot more. Actually, for whatever reason, I think, Devin, you and I talked about this last time as well. When I went away on my honeymoon, I was reading a lot of books, and just that act of reading a lot of books makes me want to write more. I guess when you're jogging more or you're working out more, you tend to want to eat better. Sort of that same reaction. So that's been pretty cool. And actually I feel like when I start dying down on my writing, if I'm not writing a lot or I don't feel like writing a lot, I start reading more books, and it makes me want to write again.
Nice.
So that's sort of my little brain hack right there. And I don't even think I read a book in high school, right? So reading a book now is certainly an accomplishment for me. Finishing a book is certainly an accomplishment for me. So it's really sparked the writing. And the other accomplishment is in terms of the business, the product side of business. We're finalizing two new WordPress themes. One specifically works extremely well with our Conductor and Note plugin. Kind of excited to launch that one. So there'll be some videos and some tutorials out on that soon, I hope. And then otherwise, I had a plan to launch a new sort of Matt Report product. There was once a VIP membership site here, and someday I'll write the post-mortem on that. But right now, I'm thinking about doing a new sort of just a free sort of, it's still a membership kind of thing. I don't really know. I was, this is where I failed, right? I was supposed to have that sort of planned out and mapped out. And I really think it's going to have to do something with a finer, more focused audience. And I really think focusing on the WordPress product developers that are out there who need help with sort of the marketing side of things, like, because I get that question asked a million times. I just wrote a blog post about it, outlining some of the top companies doing some great marketing. And I just want to give something away to answer all those questions so that people know that, hey, if I can get this sort of marketing guide or this sort of tutorial for new WordPress product people on how to sort of promote their product, right? Because it is a different market. I mean, just like we're going to talk about today, it could be on a paid marketplace. It could be on WordPress.org. Like, how do you differentiate the two? Where do you go? Do you sell it on your own? Sort of expose the scars that I've been through and you've been through, trying to get this stuff going. So that's where I failed. And I hope by the next time, I have a better plan. The next time that we meet, I have a better plan on wrapping that up. And I'm also looking to put a deadline on getting Julep to a pro status. Like, how can I move what I've invested in creating Julep, time and money, and having a pro version so that I can at least measure the viability in the market. Just selecting a deadline that says, hey, look, I need a pro version. These are the features. And those are my sort of two next goals.
So it's free right now, right?
It is free right now. You can only get it at getjulep.com. It's not in the plugin repo yet, WordPress repo yet. That would be new for me to really do sort of an upsell through .org. You obviously, you're very experienced with that. We do it sort of kind of with Conductor. Like, we have Note, but you can use Note on your own. You don't really need to upsell to Conductor. We don't even really do any upselling from Note to Conductor, which is another failure on my part. But I really do need to improve that because we have 8,000 active installs, 30,000 downloads across Note. And if I started promoting it, making that connection inside an options page or something like that says, hey, you can really bring Note to the next level via Conductor. I think that would really help the bottom line.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the repo for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. What about you? What have you accomplished? What have you knocked out of the park?
So a couple things we accomplished since the last time we talked was we launched one of our we're calling must-have add-ons for Give, which this one's called Form Field Manager. Essentially allows you to use interface similar to Gravity Forms to modify how the donation forms, the fields work. There's a lot of cool fields like the upload field. You can have any types of uploads into the donation form. There's also a date field, a repeater field, and then your standard, text areas, inputs, and email fields, things like that. So super powerful add-on, and we just soft launched it last week. So that was a big accomplishment. We've been working for weeks or months on that one.
That's awesome. So how do you differentiate the two between must-have versus, I guess, the regular?
Well, must-have would be something that is applicable for nearly all forms of accepting donations. A payment gateway, for example, wouldn't be applicable to everyone. Something like PDF receipts would be. Most people want nice downloadable PDF receipts and to offer those to their donors. So that's kind of how we differentiate the two.
So it's like from a marketing angle, it's a must-have. Like, you must want this, right?
Exactly.
I gotcha.
So like recurring donations, the one everybody's asking us for is definitely the top must-have, and that's the one we're really working on hard.
Nice. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, so we're working on getting that documentation all up. Some of the documentation is up there right now. That's kind of why we soft launched it. We're working on writing really extensive docs on that. And along with that, so that was kind of Form Field Manager. we're also doing a lot of updates to the Give website, givewp.com. We're going to make search a lot more friendly. We're using SearchWP, searchwp.com for our search, and we're redoing a lot of the navigation and header. So that's kind of accomplishments over the last since we last talked. Some of the things I don't think we did very well was we have this plugin kind of nearly ready to go, and it's been nearly ready to go for weeks now, called Facebook Reviews. It essentially allows you to show reviews for your business on your website, WordPress website from Facebook. Again, we have multiple other plugins for Yelp and Google, and this kind of helps us flesh it out with another social network who is up and coming with reviews. But unfortunately, their API is really difficult to work with, and so we've been struggling getting that to work exactly how we want it. So users are, it's very simple to use and connect, and it's been hard to get it through the final, finishing gate.
Is it because just like lack of time, or is it really just because of the technical hurdles that you're trying to get over?
To be honest, it's kind of a bit of the both. More so on the time side. We're a very lean team here, so juggling all these different products and trying to get them out the door is kind of difficult. And we're working with various contractors on this, so there's a project management side of it as well.
Yeah.
As well as the support, right? We always have to maintain support.
Yeah. I'll tell you, that was the biggest thing for me with Julep is, it was why launch another plugin? Why launch another plugin, Matt? Why chase another vertical, right? So, to me, it's like the only way I know how to do this whole like entrepreneurial thing is just do a whole bunch of shit, see what fails, and what doesn't fail, I will continue on with. It's the only way I know how to do it. And so when I launched Julep, part of the biggest problem wasn't really the time. It was really just the outsourcing it to somebody new, somebody who wasn't 100%, quote unquote WordPress developer, like very good with like PHP and JavaScript. But like to get things playing well with WordPress, and doing it the WordPress way was a bit of a challenge. And, we finally got there, but we need to iron some things out. So I totally get it. Yeah.
It's always the constant struggle, it seems, with contractors,
Yeah. Do you have any idea how to find better contractors, better help?
We've been really focused on trying to get somebody in here in-house as our next developer, but we're still going to work with contractors. The tough thing is you have to find the folks that are not too focused on building their own products as well. We have found some decent ones through Envato, and a lot of them are selling themes and stuff like that, so they can kind of work with you on the side, but that means lots of timelines are missed and things like that. I'm kind of leaning towards just hiring another one in-house here to sit next to me and be my friend.
That's a great strategy. I was on a podcast the other day, the Businessology show, being interviewed, and one of the questions that we talked about was exactly that, and that was, how do you build a team? I think Gary Vaynerchuk talked about this. Actually, you know what? It might have not have been Gary's podcast. It might have been Startup Chat with Heat and Shaw. But keeping just and WordPress community is just like the product of that, right? So if you can stay connected within the community and you can just keep tabs on people who are freelancers and who are looking for work and not looking for work at that time, just constantly talking to people. And that's been the way that I've sort of done it, is just talk to everybody, treat everything as a potential opportunity, and to work together or otherwise. And that's the best way that I've been able to scale the business when we get busy, for sure, being able to pull in people.
How active are you in your local WordPress meetup?
So that's a great question. Number one, there really isn't a local WordPress meetup anymore, and I'm going to try to spin one up. The closest one to me was recently, over the last year, was WordPress Providence, but the meetup itself is like 45 minutes away from me. So,
it's tough.
So it's not, it's not like super far, but it's still like And then Boston is like the same thing. Boston is like an hour, and God forbid, like the Red Sox are playing, because if they are, it's like 2 hours, right? Because of traffic. Right. So there are those sort of things, but what we've been doing a lot of recently is just, and we have been for like the last 6 years, is investing a lot in internships, and now all the way down to like the high school level. There are a couple high schools around here that are they're specifically teaching students WordPress, and not like, they're not using like the REST API, but they understand it, right? They understand, the breakup of HTML and CSS and how that controls and displays the front end versus, PHP and MySQL powering the back end, right? I mean, these are high school kids. So, just knowing that and getting comfortable with that. So when they come in, I mean, we've talked to developers before that have never even looked at WordPress. And then when they get in it, they're like, what do I do with this? And it's like, well, right. I thought you had like a rocket science degree in PHP. Like, what happened? But anyway, that's the best way that we've done it is really get connected with local schools and universities for interns. And we got 2 new kids from the local university this year.
So how do you, because we've had an intern here and very, very entry level junior developer, and I found it was difficult for me to train him up and then still focus on my work, That's, well, number one, we're actually going through that right now. So I don't think it's something that you can ever get away from. Again, if they are junior level and they are, student level, and they're coming in from a university and they're eager. They also have to be eager to learn this stuff. If they're not, then that's always going to be a problem. You just have to keep watching out for it and just be upfront with them and say, hey, look, so we do a paid internship. So it's not even like they just come here and fetch us coffee all day. Like, we're paying them. We want them to do this stuff because it's like growing a home team. Like in baseball, like I don't want these guys to leave for bigger markets right now. I want them to stay around, and perform. So we did, just real quick, we did Scott, our lead dev, built a mini like test, right? Using our Symphony theme and just some basic stuff. When we put the internship position out there, said, can you pass this little quiz? And it was like, one's like using the customizer, 2, and or 1 installing the theme, 2 using the customizer, and then there's like some things they had to go through to change the theme, and then as it got harder, it's like, can you add these, can you use hooks and actions in this theme, like different things that he used to grade their their WordPress skills, and right. Most of them did fairly well, right? So, I mean, that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of drilling it down all the way to that level, but, we'll see. There are some challenges, but they're still young. You just have to look at it from, if I paid a professional to do this, how much would it cost me? What's the time involved, and, are you going to see that money back, I guess? Beautiful. All right, so we got somebody special on the show today, sort of quietly waiting in the wings. You mentioned Theme for us before, and we have Jonathan Atkinson on. John, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So give folks the 2-minute drill, who you are and what you do, if they don't already know, which they should, but if they don't.
Not too sure I can spin it out for 2 minutes, but here we go. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan Atkinson. I'm a designer primarily, although I do meddle in code a little bit. But I work with my wife, who is my developer, and we create commercial WordPress themes that are available on several different marketplaces. And we've been doing that now for just about coming up for 8 years, I believe. So yeah, we've seen the highs, we've seen the lows, and everything in between, and it's a good partnership. We work from home in Ohio, and
in
primarily
Jeff
we
Chandler
sell
territory.
Yeah, he's a little bit north from us, but yeah, I know Jeff, and
good guy.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah, he's not bad. Just kidding, Jeff. All right, so we're going to chat today about sort of where things are going in the theme marketplace, at least from our perspective, And I want to start it off with marketplaces. Yes, no, maybe. We have .org where Devin and I sort of are very accustomed to, and that's my only, for themes anyway, that's my only way of distribution is through .org and making upsells through that, which does well enough for us to continue to make themes. I'm certainly not retiring on a yacht because of it. But what's your perspective, John, on the third-party marketplaces, Envato, Creative Market, and now Mojo?
Sure. Well, the big advantage of selling on any marketplace, of course, is they bring the traffic. So, that's a big part of selling. It doesn't matter whether you're selling themes or anything else online. The major thing that you're looking for is to get traffic, because then, a certain percent of your traffic is going to convert into a sale. So the advantage of marketplaces are they bring the traffic. The disadvantage is they're bringing traffic for 10,000 other people that are advertising their product on their site or more. So, and of course, the downside to that is that you've got a lot of competition in the same place. Whereas if you're selling on your own site, of course, you got to gain the traffic, you got to do your own SEO and your marketing, and, you're hoping to get people there, etc. So it's a good platform to start from. But of course, you're building their business, not necessarily your business. Although you do get, the buyers that will constantly come back and buy your product. When you leave that marketplace, or if you decide that you want to leave the marketplace, you don't have a direct relationship with any of your buyers, and therefore everything you've built up disappears overnight, basically.
Right.
So that's the downfall, and the upside, like I said, is traffic, but not just traffic. Of course, you've got the handling of payments, the distribution of your files, etc. It just makes getting into selling commercially viable themes. It's like the quick step, basically. Yeah.
So I guess the question I probably should have asked first was, is selling WordPress themes, premium WordPress themes, still a viable market? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. If it wasn't, then we wouldn't have the marketplaces. What I think, the whole scope and the landscape for selling commercial themes has changed a lot. Definitely within the last 12 months. But really, it's probably been going on for a couple of years now. We've got these monster themes, whatever you want to call them, multi-purpose.
I think there's one called Monster Theme, in fact.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I didn't mean to directly advertise a particular theme there. But these things, you can look at them like Lego blocks, basically. You've got all the basis to create your own theme from a theme. And I think what's happening is that a lot of people are buying them once and then reusing them just forever because they can. And that obviously has a hit on sales in general. A lot of people seem to have gone away from the niche themes, even though I don't quite understand that. If you're producing something that is specifically created for a purpose, it should always be better at doing it than something that is not created for that purpose. Right. But definitely niche themes have taken a hit. However, in certain circles, niche themes are the strong point for a lot of people. They're the only thing that are keeping them going.
Yeah.
A great example would be church themes. You can go to Envato or Mojo or Creative Market, and you can search for church, and you'll get several hundred results. However, those results are based on tags that the author has put in, not necessarily that the theme is actually created for a church. So that it's very difficult for buyers to find what it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, I was looking at WordPress.org the other day, and I was looking at an author's profile and their themes. Now, I mean, of course, I say this, sort of with my own foot in my mouth, but I looked at their themes. I was like, oh, great. They have 6 themes and they almost all look the same, but they're all named differently for like restaurants, bakeries, lawyers. And the only thing that's changing is the stock photo file that's, in the hero.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. No, I mean, and it's not just on the WordPress repo either. This is exactly what it's like on marketplaces as well. So
Right.
This is what I mean. It's very difficult for a buyer, especially if it's not a well-educated buyer. They're just going to go on there and do a blanket search for whatever their particular market is that they're in, and presume that the search results that came up are going to fulfill everything they need for that market.
Yeah.
90% of the time, that's not the case.
I think there's a few sort of issues here, and one is I think that the multipurpose strikes on 2 chords, and one of them being the WordPress consultant or WordPress power user, right? Like they want a theme that they can carry over to any one of their consulting projects.
Right.
So I get that, right? I think that's a smart business move, right? I just give me one tool that I can use to streamline my business, right? Because we all try to do that. Give me one tool to streamline my business, and that way I can create a repeatable system, which will make me more profitable. So I get that. And I think where the second chord gets struck is when sort of the business owner who's not a designer or a developer, but they feel that they're creative enough and they see it as something like, oh, I can just do this myself. But they've never touched a line of code in their life, nor have they even touched WordPress, right? So then they start using these things and they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And they start piling on, active options upon active options until they've got themselves a nice mess, and then they decide to go seek professional help.
Just push it live and hope for the best.
Right, or just push it live and hope for the best. And I based on the conversations that we get with our themes that we sell from end users, is I know that like our real estate theme was our very, very first theme ever created. It's old. It's outdated. It's, I don't even know if it's mobile. Yeah, it is responsive. Yes. It is responsive.
That's good.
Yeah. And
Hey, good job, man.
yeah. And like, I know it needs an update, and we're planning on it, but the folks that always download and buy that theme are like 90% of them, they're end user real estate agents.
Yeah.
And they're like trying to honestly build their own website, and they can't, because it's not even about our theme. It's just like the questions that we get is, how do I set up my GoDaddy hosting? Where does my email go? And it's like, wow, like you don't need a theme. You need professional help.
Right, and don't you think that this is it's kind of a major issue with WordPress? Is if you're somewhat of a developer, it's an easy platform to get into, to understand, to work with. Mm-hmm. But as an end user, it is not, and this is why your places such as Squarespace and Wix and everything else, I think people try and go the WordPress route as an end user, and they buy a theme and they get confused and they get frustrated, and then some associate of theirs will say, well, just go use Squarespace. Right. It's just click done. You don't need to set up your hosting and databases and all this stuff, and that's why these places are gaining so much traction.
Right, and that's usually the number one reason why folks ask for a refund on our real estate theme. You would think it's because it's just an outdated design, and maybe they just, I don't know, didn't realize it until they got it, but it's not. It's because they end up trying to figure out WordPress and they can't do it. And they say that the whole thing is just too complicated for them, and they're going back to either GoDaddy, but most of them, they're just going back to GoDaddy's site builder, right? Which is terrible, and a terrible idea. So I wish that I guess what I'm getting at is like multipurpose themes, great for somebody who knows what they're doing with them. Great for a power user or a consultant who's going to leverage it in their business, so long as they're not hacking it up like a novice user would.
Right, as long as they're using it basically as a tool,
right,
and not a solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sort of the niche vertical themes, yes, definitely something that should solve these issues for these folks who are like real estate agents. Unfortunately, up until this point of this recording, October 2015, without the REST API being fully absorbed yet and 4.4 not coming out, I think we'll start to see that finally the niche theme will succeed with the REST API coming in, because now you'll have like these little mini apps that kind of tailor to the vertical flavor of a theme. Do you kind of agree with that, or do you think I'm just talking trash? Or too hard to estimate?
I think it's too hard to. You can't predict the future, so it's kind of impossible to tell really what the REST API is going to bring and what people are going to do with it and what solutions and so on and so forth. But we're in a transitional phase right now, not just with the REST API and WordPress maturing and things like that, but I think we're maturing on the buyers, the users as well. We're losing some of them to different platforms, but we're gaining others, but they're entry level. I know that a lot of developers that used to buy our themes, say 4 or 5 years ago, have moved on from WordPress now. They're literally not using it anymore.
Right.
And they're using, other content management systems, or, they're coming up with their own and things like that. And they're getting into niche markets themselves and creating a content management system that's dedicated to whatever it may be, dentistry or and then selling it as software as a service.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, I just hope that as it, like I'm all in, like if you've heard it here first, if the REST API doesn't pan out, I'm quitting WordPress. Like if we can't start doing better things to improve the experience with, I really think it's a great savior for themes, right? Because it's really going to start to, kind of combine what the user sees, what the visitor of a site sees, and what the editor of a site, how they edit a site. Because a lot of them are just basic users that are tasked to control content, and when they can't figure out how it's going to look on front end versus back end, and what happens when I change fonts, like, this whole experience is going to get so much more streamlined, so I hope.
I think, what we're going to see more of is more like, have you guys heard of Rainmaker?
Yep.
So essentially it's kind of, built around WordPress in a much simpler way for bloggers in this case.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see more of that, like built-in analytics, simplified dashboards, still going to be WordPress, but not really, right?
Right. And that's actually one of my sort of conspiracy theory things and things that and things that I like to rant about is the fact that, and I'm going to bring this right back to marketplaces, but I feel that because we're going to see more of these little mini Rainmaker apps with WordPress, that the WordPress experience is going to get fragmented like Android once was in the beginning. So people are going to experience Android across different manufacturers, but now Google is finally realizing, hey, we need to be more like Apple. We need to wrangle this experience in and control it a little bit more so that the end user sees the Apple brand or the Apple iOS and they're like, that's easy to use. And Google's finally coming around to that. So I have this feeling that, or what I'm afraid of, is that fragmentation happening. And I think
it's a good point.
I think, here's what I think. I think that third-party marketplaces are going to really be the catalyst to screwing over the easy-to-use brand of WordPress. And I feel like WordPress.org and WordPress.com really have an opportunity to make their marketplace better so that more people know that they can find a trusted, well-developed WordPress app through their own marketplace, right? And for me, it's like I really hope that WordPress kind of wrangles that in.
No, you're talking on the .com side, or
there are smarter people out there that should figure this out, and I've said those exact words before. That somebody should figure this stuff out smarter than me. But I think both, right? I think that, when we talk about how much money people make with WordPress themes, and John, maybe you can throw some input of knowledge that you have from ThemeForest, but I know that the guys over at Theme Isle, they're doing like $50,000 a month on one theme that's in the top 10 themes of WordPress.org. Right. And the number one theme on ThemeForest, Envato, is probably doing that a week, right?
It is. Yep.
Right.
On average, about $50,000 per week. Yeah.
And that's ridiculous money, right? In both cases. So,
and that's one theme.
Right, and that's one theme.
Let's just put that in perspective. That's a theme,
right?
Earning about $50,000 per week.
Right. Yeah. So you're talking top 10, top 25 spots, really being these spots, are generating millions of dollars, and they're either generating millions of dollars for Envato, or they're generating millions of dollars for folks who are selling them. And when I say millions of dollars, I mean collectively, right? So they're collectively making millions on WordPress.org. But what I'm getting at is these spots are very valuable. And if a marketplace, can you imagine like 2 years from now, the Super Bowl ad is like, download your WordPress app from envato.com or whatever, themeforest.net, whatever the hell it is. Can you imagine that? Like now marketplaces have a way to sort of brand WordPress, right? They have a way to impact WordPress's brand, because if the experience sucks, people are going to say WordPress sucks. You see what I'm getting at? So that's what I'm afraid of.
I think that's already kind of happening,
Yeah, I agree. I think it is already happening. You're right.
Yeah, I think it's been happening since marketplaces started. It depends on the product that you're buying, and of course you can't ultimately blame the marketplace. Well, you can, because they accepted it, but if you go and you buy a theme from marketplace XYZ and it turns out that the code base is terrible, it doesn't work, the support is awful, do you look at it being the issue with that particular author, or do you look at the issue that you bought it from marketplace XYZ? Or is this now WordPress? WordPress sucks.
Right.
It's difficult because all the lines are merging, as you said. And it's going to be a sticky PR issue for WordPress going forward. Like you said, if marketplaces become so big, they become the front, the publicly facing image, basically, of WordPress, without any affiliation with WordPress. And that's going to be hard for WordPress to handle.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know how they're going to solve it. I wish they would.
So what would be the difference then between
their own marketplace?
What would be the difference between marketplaces and the plugin repo? Because the same thing could be said for the plugin repo. You have some really old plugins on there from 6-7 years ago that haven't been updated, and if a beginner goes and they install one, it could cause the white screen of death. And that's been happening for a long time.
Right.
That's true. But you got to remember that for the most part, I don't know. It doesn't matter whether somebody paid for something or they didn't pay for something. If they feel like they've had a bad experience with it, they're more likely to go online and leave a review that says this is total rubbish and it's crap and it broke my site, than they are to go back and say, what a wonderful free plugin. I really appreciate that you created this for me. We know it just doesn't happen, but when people actually exchange money for an item, their vocalization is like tenfold.
So true.
Yeah. The other thing that I would add to that is, again, marketplaces are also a product of just human nature, right? In the end, it's humans. And WordPress.org has the ability, and even WordPress.com has the ability to at least say, these are the, WordPress quote unquote certified developers, right? These are people who not only are trusted because they've been accepted into our marketplace, but they're, WordPress.org can review code commits, and it's just very much more focused on these are the folks that do it right. They can maybe tie in some community aspects, with their support forums and just long-standing in the community. I don't know what it would be, but I feel like they can put some kind of star next to an author's name that carries more weight. Will that get exploited too? Of course, right? Of course. But at least that it's a better trusted experience, so we hope. And again, I think that it's also a revenue opportunity. Granted, I know WordPress.org, foundation, nonprofit, all that fun stuff. But you could pay for more WordCamps or more community organizers or put money back into the foundation,
Well, no, I mean, non-profit doesn't mean don't make money.
Well, true. Right. Exactly. Right. No, you're right. Yeah.
Still got to have money to run it. Yeah.
So let's talk about sort of the good and the bad of these repos. I'm sort of more interested in hearing your angle right now on the recent changes to Envato and Theme Forest. Are designers and developers sticking around through all these changes? Like, what have you heard, and what are your feelings on what's going on over there?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's publicly available on the Envato forums, so I would invite anybody to go check out the discussions that are going on there. They can be quite heated at times, and that's what you always find when you've built a community, that anything big or small will produce massive amounts of friction, shall we say.
Yep.
But the way
that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it, yeah. But also, I'm privy to having access to a Slack channel for the Envato Elite authors, which is nothing to do with Envato themselves. This was created by the authors so that we could talk out of the bubble, basically. And there's basically what's happened is that a couple of weeks ago, Envato announced that they're an Australian-based company, and for tax purposes and promotional purposes, they are opening an office in the US, and all US authors will be paid directly from the US office, not the Australian one anymore. And because they're moving basically to America, everybody who lives in other countries, if their country does not have a tax treaty with the US IRS, there will be withholding of up to 28%. I believe I'm correct there, 28% extra of their earnings. So in essence, if you're a non-exclusive author, you're earning about, I think it's 30% on Envato. You're going to come out earning about 2% if your country you live in does not have a treaty with the IRS, of which I believe there's 127 countries. So that's, it's substantial, and it's affecting a lot of authors. And so basically it means you sell $100 worth of stuff, whatever it is, photos, plugins, themes, doesn't matter. You could, unfortunately, now be earning about $3
Jesus.
out of every $100 worth of sales.
So
Now,
how does that make sense, though?
It doesn't.
Like,
It
and you're
doesn't.
supposed to support it?
yeah.
It's not viable.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no way,
because
right?
that's the other thing that Envato introduced earlier on this year, a few months ago actually, was
The The upsell
support
right?
basically. All products previously on all the Envato marketplaces, support was entirely up to the discretion of the author. So if you wanted to just build a theme, put it on there and sell it, you could do, and you did not have to support it. Obviously, the good authors support their items and always have. Envato realized that this is a stumbling block when it comes to buyers, that am I getting support or not? So they introduced I'm trying to think of a correct way of saying this, but it's voluntary, but really it's not. Because if you don't say, yes, I give 6 months support for free with this item, Envato put a little, well, not a little, but quite a large thing that says this item is not supported. So therefore, you're completely ruining any potential sales there. So everybody basically had to say, yes, 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 I will do the 6 months free, and I don't get paid any extra for it, which upset a lot of people. And then Envato introduced the ability to extend with support packs. So you could buy a theme, you get 6 months free, but if you want 12 months in total, you got to buy 6 months extra of support. And authors were quite excited about this because they thought that this is going to be extra revenue, it's going to help out paying for the support staff. Unfortunately, the way that Envato priced it, you're looking at selling a theme for $55, and an extra 6 months of support is something in the region of $14, which really doesn't go very far at all, and isn't in line with really any other commercial WordPress theme site out there. You either get 12 months included, but the theme price is higher, or you get 6 months, and if you want an extra 6 months, you basically pay 50% of what you paid originally. So that upset a lot of people. And then, of course, like I said, then they've thrown this whole tax thing in there now. And I can tell you from the Slack channel and from their publicly available forums that I've seen a lot of authors from India, Pakistan, and places like that are basically saying, I can't continue to sell here. And I know that when Collis is the guy who originally founded Envato, when he announced these changes, he did say that, it's a hard change, and a lot of authors are probably going to realize that they can't continue down this road and they're going to have to pull out of the market. And it does appear like there's going to be a lot of people, but of course this does not come into effect until the 1st of January 2016. So you're really not going to see anybody do anything until we hit the new year.
I'd be preparing in the meantime if you were to make a change.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, do you think it's just some kind of divisive plan to sort of just thin out the herd, as it were, so that they could maybe make room for higher quality stuff, see who sticks around to really support it, or no?
Well, that's a really nice thought.
I'll take that as your answer.
I don't know if investors would fly with that.
I think that's the effect that it's going to have.
Yeah.
To be honest, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that an author in India or some other country is a worse developer than somebody from the US or the UK. That's nothing to do with it. So it could be, even though it would have a knock-on effect of thinning the herd, as you say. You might not just be losing bad authors; you may well be losing very good authors.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be like a bad game of chicken, right? Where some folks are like, I'm going to leave on January, only to wait to see if the other folks said that they would leave on January, just to see who would stick around and who wouldn't, because, it could be one of those things when all of a sudden they shut the doors and they're like, okay, everybody who left, you can't come back in, for 6 more months or blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And I will say that the other sticky point is that Envato have always classed authors as authors and not direct sellers. And I believe it was towards the beginning of 2015. They changed their terms and conditions so that they now classed authors as direct sellers, and therefore they are now responsible for the tax on the full price of the item. The way that and again, I invite anybody to go and check out these facts on the official Envato websites on how authors are paid, and the charges that are placed in there. But basically the way that it happens now is that there is a seller and a buyer fee that Envato charges, but the whole original price paid goes directly to the author, they say. The fact that I can't get that money because it's credit on their website, and the fact that I don't know the actual buyer, who they are, their name, where they're from, or anything like that, that is not available. Some have said that that's not particularly legal. I couldn't comment on that.
Consult your
but
lawyer.
The way that it's all worked out right now is that if you just want me to come out and say it feels like authors are being screwed every single which way around, right, and being locked in.
Right. Yeah, it is definitely not looking like the most viable of solutions if you're looking to jump into the WordPress theme space right now.
No. Yeah, I totally agree with that. There are other marketplaces available which, if you really feel like you must go down the marketplace path, I think there are better viable options than selling on ThemeForest right now.
Yeah. The sort of, so the comparison to the world that I live in WordPress.org repo is, it's obviously, number one, it's not a paid marketplace, right? So there are no transactions happening here. But like I commented on earlier, these top spots are worth $40,000, $50,000. To my knowledge, based on some of the reports, the transparency income reports that some theme authors do that are sitting up in the top spot. So we know that these are valuable places. But .org is, GPL only, user submitted theme repo.
No pretty demos.
Right, no pretty demos, and these are the challenges that we have. So again, if you are sort of, the reason why we're having this conversation today is because if you are thinking about getting into the theme space, so do you go to .org, do you go to a third-party marketplace, or do you just try to sell on your own? .org comes with its specific challenges. So number one, being a community-driven approval system, right? So these are people who are volunteering their time to review themes, yep, all with varying degrees of experience. So some folks let some things go through while others don't. One person might have a bias towards a way that you've coded something versus another. So there's all these little nuances that happen when you submit a theme, although it's getting much better. The team leaders in there are really starting to help people and show people how to really review themes well. There's a whole bunch of documentation on how to do this, but at the end of the day, go back to humans being humans, and some stuff doesn't fly. The other thing is again, it's not meant to be a place where you're selling stuff, right? So there's always that gray line that folks walk where how much is too much upsell? What can you put in a free theme versus what is an upsell into a pro theme? These discussions happen all the time in the theme review team channel. It might be just called theme review now.
Can't you not register a post type within your theme also?
Yeah, so again,
things like that.
Yeah, there's things like that, and it's all meant to be moving to the same thing. Like when we talk about thinning the herd at ThemeForest, the same thing is sort of happening in .org where they're saying, well, no more sliders built into the theme, no more user-generated content built into the theme. Like putting custom meta boxes for the 3 popular service blocks on your homepage. All of that stuff was sort of decided on, but somehow these things keep slipping through. Like I constantly watch the most recently submitted themes, and they have sliders and they have user-generated content. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I thought we had a plan to do away with that. And then when you go into the Slack channel, it's like, oh, well, we can't win them all, or we can't catch them all. And it's just like, oh, man, it's so difficult to play by the same standards. And one specifically that I just wanted to mention because it's finally sort of brought up by Otto in the Slack channel. Again, public knowledge. It's in there. It's in the Slack channel. You can always go search for it. But as I've, sort of always suspected with my tinfoil hat on, that there are automated downloads happening for the free themes that make them rise to the top of the rankings, right? So if all of a sudden you can score your theme to download 2,000, 2,500 downloads a day, you start rising that to the ranking in the top 25. And there was a theme. I won't name the name, but it's out there, where he noticed that it was getting automatic downloads. And I mean, it was going from 2,000 downloads a day to 200, right? So these things are happening, and they're very valuable to the authors who are doing it. Valuable in the sense where if they're upselling, they're making some cash. They're making some serious cash, to which is why I say I would love for them to look at this as an opportunity for the nonprofit to make money, to do something with that money that for the betterment of WordPress, and tax me, right? Tax me. I don't mind splitting the sale.
Other things besides like the marketplace on WordPress.org could improve substantially as well, like the support forums. I understand it's difficult, but there's a lot of different little tweaks that could be made to improve that and lift all boats, so to say.
I agree, and I think that a step in the right direction is what they did with plugins. I'm sure it scared. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it scared the hell out of some people who had millions of downloads, only to find out that 2,000 of them were active. But but it is a good direction in statistics. Who's using it? Who's on what version? That kind of thing. Of course, that can be exploited as well. But in terms of security stuff. But it's a better direction. I'd love to see some of that stuff happening, because I know across our themes, not all of these people are using our themes still. So whatever we have for downloads, 500,000 across all of our themes. I know that they're not all active for sure. I would love to know what that data was like. I would love to be able to more easily support people on .org if there was a way. So there is no perfect place, but again, if you're selling just on your site and you don't have a way to distribute at high levels, or you don't have an upsell channel, your battle is marketing. And your battle is going to have to be get in front of people's eyeballs as much as you can on WordPress.org or a place like ThemeForest or Creative Market or Mojo. So those are all the trade-offs when you play in other people's sandboxes.
Yes.
So there is no perfect answer at the end of the day. It always ends up on being, it depends. I don't know. I'm happy with the distribution so far with .org and selling on my site. I've never really wanted to get into the marketplaces for themes, the third-party marketplaces. I just didn't want to have to compete with that. And as far as I know, we'll continue to go the .org freemium route and see where that takes us. I'm very bullish on themes, right? I don't think the theme marketplace or the themes should go away. And in fact, I would say this to you, Devin. I would have a Give specific theme that lends really well to your plugin, because I come from the car industry, right? And I've said this before: is new cars, dealers don't make money unless you're like selling Porsches or Ferraris or whatever. But like if you're selling Chevys and Toyotas, so is like 20 other dealerships around you. Everybody has the same inventory. Everybody has the same color. And customers come in and they just price shop it until it's the race to the bottom. But what that does is attract people to the lot to purchase maybe a certified pre-owned car that no other dealer has. And now you're able to make more margin. You make more profit on that sale. And that's the way I sort of look at themes is themes have to be created. They bring the eyeballs in. And then, oh, by the way, we have these plugins that you can buy, and that's where we make our money. I would love to see one of those contests run on ThemeForest for our Give plugin. We do have one author did release a donation theme called Bethlehem on ThemeForest, and he's actually an Indian developer who's really talented. So I wonder how he's going to be taking these new changes
to his business on that marketplace.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we've hit the hour mark. Either of you have any closing remarks that you want to make before we wrap it up? This was sort of a very long show today.
I'd just say I wouldn't discourage anyone from getting into the developing WordPress themes or plugins. I think the future is definitely bright, whether it be in a marketplace or on your own site. You can definitely build a business around it.
I agree. Jonathan, anything from you?
Concentrate on building your own business, not somebody else's.
I agree.
That's about the most important lesson I've learned by selling on marketplaces, and that's not me saying that you should not sell on a marketplace. It's the easiest way of getting your foot in the door and earning some money and getting the wheels in motion. But ultimately, concentrate on the long-term goal, which is to build your business.
That's awesome stuff. And Jonathan, where can folks find you on the web?
They can find me on Twitter at TWSJonathan, or they can go to the website, which is creative.com, which is CR3ATIV.com.
And you always have a collection of awesome themes coming out. If you do follow him on Twitter, make sure you catch him before a soccer match starts, and always follow him to see his latest and greatest designs. You got a new one coming out, right? It's a blogging and portfolio theme. Looks pretty.
In fact, we just released it yesterday on Creative Market.
That's awesome.
Nice.
But if you go to the website, you'll see it there.
Yeah, it's pretty damn slick. Devin, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at interwebs, INNERWEBS, and givewp.com.
And you can find me. It's at MattReport on Twitter. And as always, mattreport.com/subscribe. Join the mailing list. If you enjoyed today's show, if you've made it this far, 1 hour of us ranting about the WordPress theme space, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Just search for Matt Report on iTunes, and we'd really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.